Morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to our July 6, 2021 City Council meeting.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Here.
Dayblind.
Here.
Soldner.
Here.
Bagwell.
Here.
Garza.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The prayer, I'm sorry. The prayer. Tanya Reamer Winger. I hope I said that right.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
I invite you to pray with me. This is a prayer inspired on the Lord's Prayer, or the prayer Jesus taught. So let's pray together. Holy God, creator of the universe, source of every breath we take, you are also as near to us as a loving mother or a loving father. This day and every day, may all that we think, speak, and do join with your love for the world. We pray for our daily bread, for what we each need each day to be whole and safe. We ask this not only for ourselves, but together with you, we long for the well-being of every man, woman, and child. And as you bring healing and forgiveness to us, teach us to be healing and forgiving in our relationships and encounters. Lead us away from those things that tempt us to choose ways of thinking and speaking and acting that bring violence and separation from you and others. I pray that you will grant this city council wisdom and keen discernment for all that lays before them. May they remain focused on seeking with persistent courage what is good and life-giving for everyone. Shape them and each of us into people of compassion and humility. Give us the courage to realize that ultimately our lives and our world are held in your loving hands. You who are our source, the very ground of our being. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Tanya.
I have a proclamation for Parks and Recreation Month.
Okay. Okay. Proclamation. Whereas parks and recreation programs are integral part of the communities throughout this country, including the city of Hutchinson. And whereas our parks and recreations are vital and important to establish, maintaining the quality of life in our countries and ensuring the health of all citizens and contributing to the economic environment, well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy services in the community and that aid in preservation of chronic disease, provide thorough recreation services to those who are mentally and physically disabled, and also improve the mental, emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase community economic prosperity through the increase of property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism and attraction, and relations to businesses and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamentally to the environment, well-being of our community, and parks, natural recreation areas, improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, and improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetation buffers to develop and produce habit of wildlife. And whereas the parks and natural recreation areas are ensure the ecology beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature, recreation outdoors, and whereas the United States House of Representatives has designed July as Park and Recreation Month, and the city of Hutchinson recognized the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, I, Steve Garza, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, do proclaim the month of July 2021 as Parks and Recreation Month. Thank you. All right.
Good morning, Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. I say this every year, so I feel like I have to repeat it. Jay already knows this stuff. We choose July as Parks and Recreation Month, but really any month out of the year could be designated Parks and Recreation Month, with the amount of parks and trails and public facilities and then the recreational programming that Hutchinson does. Every month out of the year, there are just a tremendous amount of opportunities in our community. One thing that I'm probably the most proud of my 7-ish years here is the relationship that I've built with Hutchinson. As an organization, the city, working side by side with Hutchinson, I think we've done some really great things for the community. When I arrived here, the relationship wasn't as good as it could have been, and I think the two moving together with the same goals in mind has really produced a lot of great outcomes. So that's one thing I'm really proud of, and I want to thank the board of Hutchinson. I know we have a couple board members here in the audience for supporting me over the last 7 years, as well as city council and the city manager for the support that's been given to me and for my group over in Parks and Facilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Amy Conkling, Director of Marketing and Development for Hutchinson. Want to echo a lot of what Justin said. We are just thrilled that July is Parks and Rec month. It's our favorite month out of the year. The great thing about Parks and Recreation is the impact it makes on every single person in our community. That's the great thing about Parks and Recreation. It's all encompassing, all ages, all abilities, from cradle to grave. We are making an impact in providing long-lasting memories and life skills and services for the community that we serve. So this month, NRPA, which is the National Recreation and Park Association, has deemed it our park, our rec story. And so we're going to be storytelling the impact that Parks and Recreation have made here in Hutchinson and Reno County. We encourage you to follow the Hutch Rec social media platforms through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as we share our stories, not only as a staff, but also as our community members and the impact they make. So thank you for recognizing this month, and we look forward to serving you in the many years to come, and make sure that you follow us on all of our social media platforms.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 5, oral communications from the audience.
Hello, City Council. My name is James Lowe. I currently live at 624 East Avenue F here in the great Salt City of Hutchinson, Kansas. I feel like I'm on the Letterman show. I even brought a clip. This is a golf ball. And this is, for the last 2 summers, there is a group of, I guess we'll call them distinguished gentlemen, since we're all adults here. They've been setting up either before sunset or right after the sun comes up in the graveyard, and they smack these every single day, 1 to 2 times a day, either at the prison walls, which is really ridiculous, or they're smacking them at the people in the community gardens, or they're hitting them in all the nearby homes, and then they go wander around in people's yards and pick up their golf balls. I've personally been out there mowing. I've seen other people out there mowing, and there are plenty of places in this town to go golf and hit golf balls. You don't need to be hitting them into people's yards. They live back behind the trees in the cemetery. I'm not sure where. I would love to find out. I have called the police on a couple of occasions to go over and run them out of the graveyard, and they even are starting to now smack them into the windows of the homes nearby, including our house. And they cracked a window about a week or 2 ago, and we filled out a Crime Stoppers report and everything, but without an address and without knowing who they are. And they're not real fond of the people in the community gardens, because I guess if people in the community gardens have told them, hey, you probably ought to get out of here. I just kind of wanted to bring it to your guys' attention. I don't know if signage would work. I hate to always be calling the cops to come over there, and because I know the police have better things to do rather than chase these guys out of the graveyard. But it wasn't that big of a deal to me, but now they're starting to damage homes. They've hit a few people that are walking their pets. They've hit people over in that area. And they're hitting these balls as far as I've seen some near the railroad tracks on both sides of the street over there on Avenue F and that area. So I wasn't sure what else to do, so I just figured I would bring it to your guys' attention and
Thank you.
see if you guys could figure something out.
That's a new one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Well, that is our cemetery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
We're aware of it, and I have discussed it with Justin, and it's something we're aware of that we're working towards.
I don't know what the caretaker situation is anymore. Do they still have somebody living there?
Yeah,
I don't think he lives
thanks,
there.
Justin.
Good morning, Justin Combs again. No, there is not a caretaker that lives there, but our cemetery sexton is aware of it. He's tried to run them off multiple times. As soon as they see him, they take off running. We're going to work on putting some signs up. In reality, it's probably not going to stop them, but at least we can help with the signage, and then we'll continue to contact PD, and we can do that as well as the neighbors. But again, we're aware of it. We're doing what we can. We've seen them. Zach's gone over there. They take off running, so we're not real sure what a great solution is.
Okay.
How old are these people? I mean, are they kids? Are they adults?
No, they've got to be, I'd say, 30s, 40s. They're
Old enough to know better.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if it was little kids, I wouldn't have a problem with it because they're just out
Yeah.
playing. But these guys obviously have nothing to do apparently around those two times a day.
If we know what time of day they are, why don't we send
Mhm.
a police officer to patrol that area at that time?
Yeah, if it's always at the same time, I don't know why that hasn't been considered.
It's either right before sunset or when the sun first comes up.
Yeah,
Weird.
we'll continue to work with Zach at the cemetery as well as with PD, see if we can't get this solved. So.
Well, I
Okay,
think someone's
thank
more
you.
apt to run away from than a police officer. If they see a police officer and run away.
Then they're gonna get a looting.
Yeah, they
they're
might be a
gonna
little
looting
less
charge.
apt to run away from a police officer than just a
Oh, they'll run
graveyard
in it.
attendant.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sorry.
What do you think, Hooper? Is there availability to send someone down there?
Jeff Hooper, Chief of Police. Yeah, we certainly, I had heard of this problem, but I didn't realize it was as extensive as a problem as obviously it is. It is occurring on a regular basis. I know we've had a couple calls out there. But if it's occurring on a regular basis almost every day, there's no reason if we're not on other emergency calls, we couldn't post an officer out there, even in an unmarked unit, during that time and see if we could maybe do some additional enforcement. I don't necessarily agree with your assessment that they're less likely to run from us. They're probably more likely to run from us. But
I wouldn't think so.
we'll do the best. We'll do the best that we can to try to curb that. So we'll do some selective
Yeah.
enforcement out there, some selective patrol. Hopefully, we can help rectify the situation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Anybody else? Okay.
Item 6, consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Iris Carvalho?
Yes.
Dave Blind?
Yes.
Solinger?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Item 7A, consider tenant protection voucher program with Newton Housing Authority.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. Ryan Beatlook, Director of Planning and Development. Before you this morning is kind of a unique request for a cooperative agreement between the City of Hutchinson and the City of Newton Housing Authority to administer what is called tenant protection vouchers. So currently, North Park Village, which is up at 34th and Lorraine, has what is called rent assistance, or basically Section 8 vouchers. Though that program is being transferred down to Commerce Gardens Phase 2, down there at 11th, once that project wraps up. But HUD has a program that is called Tenant Protection Vouchers, which allows families that are currently living in subsidized housing to remain in that home. And so, but in order for that to be done, there needs to be these vouchers that are handled. So currently, the Hutchinson Housing Authority is under the Cowley County Housing Authority. That was done in 2014. HUD reached out to Cowley County, and Cowley County responded that either they didn't have the staffing or they were just unable to handle the request. So HUD then reached out to Newton and their housing authority to administer these vouchers. So what this would be is that it would only be for this these set of vouchers, 30 vouchers, that the Newton Housing Authority would actually administer these vouchers on behalf of the city of Hutchinson. So all we would need is just this agreement that has been included. There is no financial impact that's anticipated, and this was a request that came to us from Newton Housing Authority via HUD. So that's all that.
Ryan, what is the history of the former
Yeah.
Hutchinson Housing Authority?
Yes.
Give us a little background on.
Yes, I looked into that in preparation
Yeah.
for that. That was well before I started here, but in 2014, the Hutchinson Housing Authority approached the city of Hutchinson and basically said, because of administrative costs, to try to maintain their finances a little bit better, that they were looking to hand administration off to the Cowley County Housing Authority. So there was an agreement that was entered in by the city at that time to transfer administrative authority over to Cowley County. So they do maintain an office here locally. It's at 17th and Lorraine, but in the trade center there. But my understanding is that, from what I've heard, that they are not very responsive to the needs of our local community. Furthermore, if you look at their agreement, they are supposed to be providing annual updates to both the Housing Commission and to the City Council. It has been incredibly difficult for staff to have them follow up on that part of the agreement. So I think it might be a discussion that needs to be had, maybe offline.
Yes.
Do we revisit that? That's something that has been on my radar since I've started in this position, is that staff doesn't really know status of our housing voucher program, any of that really, that type of information that we really should be knowing, and the Housing Commission doesn't either. So I think it might be something that the city needs to probably revisit at some point.
Yeah, John and I were trying to remember when and kind of what had happened, and both of us were struggling. Who actually is funding them then? The feds?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
We don't have any line item expenditures
Not that I'm aware of, no.
that you're aware of?
No.
So what are these vouchers paid for?
So they basically pay for a portion of their, either a portion or all of their rent, just kind of depending on how it is. But yeah, as I said, this is a HUD program. It happens all the time. It's called repositioning, and so it's basically where maybe a new project comes online in a community, that those families have the option that they can move there, and that would be where any new applicants, that's where they would be located. But HUD does obviously understand the hardship that it is for families to move and things like that, and so that it does allow for folks who maybe currently living, that they could continue to stay at their current residence. So,
Well, we certainly need some accountability. This thing's been lingering for several years without any oversight.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah, staff would fully agree with you on that.
Yeah, I don't think any of us realized it had
No.
disappeared into such a black hole. And considering housing.
what course of action do you have within the city then?
I'd have to go back and look at what our agreement actually is, if we have any real enforcement, or if there's actually any really teeth in it. I'm looking at Paul because I think he was the one who drafted that agreement.
Well, I didn't draft the agreement, but we did approve it. It was one of those, quite frankly, I was here several years. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember it was over in Convention Hall.
Convention Hall for years.
Yeah.
Well,
It's been at the
before
trade
my
center.
time on that one, but
Yeah.
we basically signed an agreement to work with Cowley County so it could continue at all.
Yeah.
It was going to stop altogether.
That's no way to run a railroad.
I would agree.
No.
I would
No.
agree. And I mean, and they really, when they're supposed to have a ex officio seat on Housing Commission, Amy Allison,
Yeah.
our senior planner, she was the housing program specialist at the time, had reached out numerous times and was including them, and only really got a response one or two times. Staff has directed folks that have had questions about them over there, and we get a lot of frustration that they try to call, they don't really get anything. So staff has started handing out the Cowley County number in hopes that maybe they'll actually be able to reach out to somebody. So yeah, there's certainly some concern that that our citizens are not getting the service that they really need from their housing authorities. So
you're gonna put this on your radar?
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, it's something
Yeah,
that
please.
I think this is the catalyst that probably reopens that we need to have this
Yeah.
conversation. The fact that HUD had to go to another community because our housing authority couldn't really handle it. So.
not good.
Ryan, I had a few questions about the Section 8 repositioning. Does this take any Section 8 units out of Hutchinson? It doesn't lower the number?
It just changes the location.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, people who are in Section 8 housing, they're automatically eligible for these vouchers, or are they displaced if they don't get them?
My understanding of how it works is that they actually, they have the option, they can move to Commerce Gardens Phase 2, or they can stay at North Park. And if they stay at North Park, they would be eligible for these vouchers.
So they're given priority for Commerce Gardens. No one is above them on the
I
wait
believe
list?
so. That's my understanding.
Okay. So, if we enter in, we're entering into an agreement with Newton, and Newton will be able to walk these people through that process?
They will be administering that, yes.
Okay.
I am here from Joanne Colbert, Executive Director of Newton Housing
Okay,
Authority.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in fact, in my car, I have the applications and the certification packets. I'm gonna go, if you agree with this, I will go deliver them to them and start the process. They'd like to see it done by July 31st.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow, okay.
We'll probably try really hard to get that done. It'll just take a lot of weekends between now and then. But, yeah, we will administrate and we're not going to force the tenants to come to us. Myself and my housing specialist will come to Hutchinson and meet with each one of them and get them up and going. And then we will have those vouchers until those households choose to go somewhere else.
Okay.
And then they'll just go away, type thing. It's part of the repositioning.
Okay. So they'll be able to stay there as long as
they qualify.
okay.
I mean, with Section 8, you can graduate from the program. So if you become employed, stable, and you stay that way for 6 months, then you would, what they consider graduate from the program.
Okay.
They give them 6 months just in case something doesn't work out, and they still have something to fall back on.
Got it. Now,
Okay.
is the Newton Housing Authority its own entity, or are you part of a larger multi-county operation?
No, we are still independent. There was actually only 3 choices since Cowley County backed out, and that would have been Wichita, Newton, I guess 4, Dodge City or Manhattan.
Well, you are certainly the most logical
Yeah,
at
definitely.
30 miles distance.
Well, we're grateful for your willingness to do
Yeah.
this. I can't imagine the hardship that would have been on all of those residents.
Yeah, they would have definitely they would have had no roof over their heads,
Yeah,
basically.
it's unacceptable, really,
Yeah.
what has gone down here. Totally unacceptable.
So, anyway, that's kind of the reposition is very complicated, and there's a lot of different ways to go. I've spent the last probably 5 years studying it, because Newton will reposition probably about 2 years down the road. But it'll just transition public housing into Section 8 housing. So there won't really be people losing housing or losing units. It's just that they'll transfer from public housing to Section 8.
Okay.
I have a question, ma'am. I don't wanna put you in any awkward position,
Uh-huh.
but, you obviously have a very functioning, housing authority. What happened here in Hutchinson, to your knowledge?
You know, I really don't know because originally I was started from Manhattan. I moved to Newton to take this position to be closer to my mother. We just couldn't get Hutchinson Housing Authority to answer any phone calls or do any landlord references. And then slowly we just couldn't even contact them. So the smaller housing authorities are struggling for, first of all, to find staff. It's a very detailed, long hours, always something to do job, and it's hard to find anybody to take executive director's positions. There's a lot of knowledge involved. And so the smaller towns are really struggling. I've seen it all over the state of Kansas. A lot of cities have had to actually take back the housing authorities and are trying to operate them themselves because there is not enough funding to staff it adequately.
Well, it's a shame because, you know, that local capacity would be uniquely better suited to serve the local needs.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely, because it's very heartbreaking when people walk into Newton Housing
Yeah.
Authority and we can only serve the city limits of Newton. We don't have any vouchers for Harvey County. Wichita has those. And even actually Manhattan has Morris County, all the McPherson County has to go to Cowley County to get a Section 8 voucher.
Well, it seems like if this is a
like
statewide
this whole
problem,
thing
we
needs to
should
be
probably not focus solely on trying to figure it out locally, but we need to be speaking with our legislators, our state legislators, about a overarching, more sustainable program, because this isn't working.
You know, they set aside 100% of the funds to fund us, but they never fund us fully.
Oh, I see.
You know,
I
it's
see.
sometimes it's 76%, sometimes it's 80%, 82%, we never know.
And this
So-
is the state?
No, this
No,
is
this
the
is
federal
federal.
government.
Federal government, okay.
Yeah, it'd all be federal.
And as far as phone numbers to give people that can't get a hold of Cowley County, I can give you numbers to the Kansas City Regional Office, and they will help take care of it. I'm not sure who is Cowley County's portfolio specialist, but somebody in Kansas City will. Yeah, and you can get a hold of them and let them know. Of course, they're kind of on their radar right now anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So does KHRC have no oversight, no involvement in these local authorities?
Not with HUD.
Okay.
Not with HUD programs, not
Okay.
Section 8. KHRC is in charge of the tax credit units, and this repositioning really requires both tax credit and Section 8 programs to make them work because of the cost of rent. Rent keeps going up, and HUD doesn't give us any more money, and so then we can't issue enough vouchers. Like our number of vouchers keep going down that we can issue because of the cost, and they're not increasing it. They actually took the money from the HUD programs and gave it, to run the tax credit programs. Even though tax credit is individual corporations, businesses that furnish the funds to exchange the tax credits, it still kind of comes down, the money comes down from HUD.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
So,
sense.
yeah, so there's actually people that are in Section 8 and tax credit dual properties. They'll have 2 inspections a year, and they will have 2 recertifications a year, one for tax credit and one for Section 8. Yeah, it's hard on them because I've managed a dual property before, but it needs to be done. So
Yeah.
Oh, can of worms.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is, and that's why it's so hard to find people that really want to do it anymore.
Yeah, because the tax credits essentially pay for construction,
Mhm,
whereas the are paying the rent.
mhm,
Okay,
mhm. Yep.
well, a
So
new
that's-
challenge.
Always something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can send you those
Awesome. I really appreciate it.
Kansas City numbers and stuff.
I
But
got,
I'm sure somebody can tell you who.
I got a question for you, ma'am, real quick before you leave. Your boss, you have a director for you, don't you?
No, I have a board.
A board?
Uh-huh. We have a board. They're voluntary boards. And I have an excellent voluntary board.
Okay, your voluntary board, is it in Newton or is it in Kansas City? Where's
It
at?
is in Newton.
I see.
Mhm.
So is that part of the requirement for us to have a HUD here in Hutchinson administration here? We have to
You
have
would
a
have,
board?
you would have to have a voluntary board, correct?
I see. So where do we find out this information, what we have to have? Are we gonna start establishing our own? Where do we go to find the, where we establish it?
Actually, you can go to our city code, Mayor, it's still in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just don't have a functioning housing authority.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Well, that answered my question.
Okay, the framework is still there, it's just we don't have anything in
I didn't
position.
repeal it, I left it in place on purpose.
Okay. You knew it was gonna come back, huh?
It's here.
Yeah, I know, I know.
You know, and I see the need daily. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it just is growing and growing and growing. You know, there's just not enough funding and more people that can't make ends meet anymore.
Well, I would encourage us to push for policy change through our federal lawmakers. I don't know if we need to send a letter, but how many people are even, how many lawmakers are even aware of this issue? And I don't know, but it can't be solely fixed locally. We need to push for systemic change here.
There is a publication that goes out, it's called FOTA. I can send you a copy or two of it. I think there are people out there and attorneys out there fighting for the low-income people. There's a national organization of housing authorities that do a lot of work for that, but evidently it's just not enough or not the right people that's.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's unfortunate.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as you can see, it's a deep-seated issue, but, thank you once again to Newton for agreeing to help us out with this, because this is something that, at the end of the day, the families don't care. They just want to make sure that they have a roof over their head, and they don't care who's responsible for that, so.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so it's a shame that they were put in this position, but thank you once again to Newton
Yeah.
for stepping up on that.
I would move to accept and approve the cooperative agreement between the City of Hutchinson and the City of Newton Housing Authority and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Iris Carmella?
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza.
Yes.
Item 8, report of city officials.
Okay, Sarah?
I don't really have anything to report, other than I'm gonna need IT's help after.
Okay.
Who's that?
IT.
Oh, yes. Jade?
I just wanted to remind everybody about this evening's budget meeting. You can come to the meeting, it's in these chambers at 5:30 p.m., or you can watch it online. Pretty exciting stuff, I'm sure. But if that's your thing, it will be on YouTube if you'd like to view those discussions or participate in them. So that's all I have.
Nancy?
Nothing.
John? Jay?
I guess just to follow on to Jade's question and then address this to you, Jeff. How do we plan to bring some organizational structure to this evening's budget session? What are your thoughts? So we're not just bouncing all over the.
Yeah, we've actually put together an agenda form
Okay.
for the meeting, and that's largely up to the governing body as to what kind of protocol they want to put in place and how rigid you want to be in the meeting itself. I don't have a perfect answer for you there. In the past 30 years, I have not developed or seen anybody else develop a perfect answer for that. It's it's largely oriented to the governing body's wishes.
So, yeah, I understand that, and your deferment to the governing body, I understand that, but we can get all kinds of bounce in different directions and so on, and I'm kind of a structured type of a person, which, if there's some preliminary information that you and Angela will present this evening?
Yes.
As far as what has transpired since our last budget meeting?
Yes?
Yeah, they will.
Where we're landing today?
Yes. That is definitely part of our presentation.
Preliminary part of your presentation, so we
Yeah.
can bounce off of it.
Yeah, it sounds like we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
I don't wanna go line item by line item.
But we don't either.
No, no.
Okay, well, I really don't have nothing. I just came from a week and a half in Mexico and I had a great time and really ready to go. So I don't know about the budget meeting, but I'll do the best we can, so.
Yeah.
Mr. City Manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Nice to have you back. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Recently, we've had a lot of inquiries, even from the governing body, from constituents that pass through, relating to code enforcement actions on various properties. Thank you for your patience on some of these. Some of these have a long history, and as we transition through new department heads, we kind of have a new mindset as to how we're going to handle some of those. Fortunately, I see that as a good constructive thing. But those are always unique. There's elements of enforcement and evidentiary requirements on our part that sometimes are cumbersome as we work some of those. So know that we're working those, and I appreciate your inquiries and passing those through. It helps us advance those. Also, City Fireworks display was successful. It was my first year there, and I noticed that it was very well attended. Had a good time. Appreciate everybody's attendance there. And again, tonight's budget work session. Thank you for that, Jade. Yeah, that's all I have. I'll rest for questions.
Do you have any reports? Do we have any fires? Everything went fine on the fire department side, do you know?
Did we have any fires on 4th of July?
Yeah. Did we have any cause of fireworks? Do you know?
Well, we did.
Okay.
And again, those were unique as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the department responded well, and from what I understand, it was activity that really doesn't relate to proper use of fireworks,
Mm-hmm.
but they were involved.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Anything else? Then I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second?
No, I need a motion.
I thought he said,
No.
oh,
He asked-
I thought,
he asked
oh.
for a motion.
A motion, yes.
Motion to adjourn.
No, okay.
Second.
I thought he motioned.
Pyrus Dickernball?
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Bagwell?
Yes.
Garza?
Yes.
One of the fastest
Yes.
ever. That was quick.